Did you go on a bad date recently? Maybe OkCupid has something to do with it. Welcome to your Tuesday lunch break, everyone. I'm Tanya Rivero. Dating site OkCupid reveals it conducts secret dating research on its users and recently intentionally mismatched users to test the site's technology. This comes just weeks after Facebook admitted to misleading users in a psychological study. Joining us now with more analysis is privacy expert Gautam Hans, fellow at the Center for Democracy and Technology in Washington, D.C. Hi, Gautam. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So OkCupid is completely unapologetic about these experiments. Co-founder Christian Rudder wrote in a blog post titled, "We experiment on human beings," quote, "Guess what, everybody? If you use the internet, you are the subject of hundreds of experiments at any given time. That's how websites work." But is that a fair assumption, Gautam?
So it is true that there is a lot of experimentation that happens online through websites. What we think is the crucial element here is the degree to which OkCupid experimented on its users. A lot of websites do something called A/B testing, in which they send a different kind of a layout to different users to see what works better. But this is a little bit beyond that. This is, as you mentioned, helping people or discouraging people from having certain kinds of romantic matches, which is something that has a lot of repercussions for our individual lives.
Absolutely. I can totally see why people would be upset by this. If I'm told I'm a good match for someone, then later find out I was deceived, that would really make me angry. At the very least, I'd feel like my time had been wasted. So how are users fair? Are they justified in being upset here?
I think, this is the kind of testing that not only is extensive, but it wasn't really known to anyone. I don't think many people realize the extent to which online service providers do this kind of research. And when you're caught off guard, it can be really surprising. I think OkCupid could have done a better job of messaging this. They probably, in their privacy policies, say that they do research, but it's not well explained. So one way that they could have avoided this kind of situation is to say, the type of research we do is to see what makes a good match, and this is how we do it. The more transparency around these practices, the better informed customers are, and then the people who use those services can make an informed choice about whether or not they're okay with that and whether or not they're comfortable using that kind of service.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. Transparency is key. Now, IAC, the company that owns OkCupid, says the dating site plans to continue these experiments. Is there any way to use a site like this but opt out of the experiments?
Unfortunately, most sites don't allow you to do that kind of a la carte usage. For them, the benefit really is to be able to have this kind of capability. And so if they allowed opt-outs, it's not clear that they would have as robust of a data set. I think, unfortunately, it's really a all or nothing proposition for an individual. One thing that might be interesting is to see if other dating sites view this as a competitive advantage. I could see another site saying, "Come to us, we don't experiment on you." And for those people for whom that's an important distinguisher, they could really, migrate to another service. Whether or not that happens, of course, I think we'll have to wait and see.
Absolutely. That's a good point. I'm glad that you brought up the other dating sites because according to the Pew Research Center, OkCupid is one of the top dating sites, but behind Match.com, eHarmony, and Plenty of Fish. But how do we know that those sites aren't also conducting their own experiments?
It's certainly very possible. I think the degree to which some experiments may be very benign, like I said, certain displays, different layouts. I don't think people really have a problem with that, and that's the kind of experimentation that, we're comfortable with. It's really for user experience benefits. But, I would encourage, sites that are doing this kind of behavior to be really upfront about it, because as we've seen recently, there's a lot of consumer unhappiness and uproar when people feel caught off guard. And I don't think any of the sites really, want to be put in that position of having their users angry with them.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much, Gautam Hans from the Center for Democracy and Technology, for your insight.
Thanks for having me today.